people, welcome. Hope everybody alright. You don't know. Say we need to big up on ourselves. So it has been a while, few months that since I haven't done any recording, but I am back. Alright. So maybe a continuation of the Nht application saga. So today really I'm going to talk about the application process and the interview. Alright, so let's start with the application process. Generally, when Nht have an opening, it is publicized. So you see it in the newspaper, Facebook pages, Instagram, their official website, it is everywhere. Alright, so they do a lot of advertising and marketing to keep everybody abreast of the dates when the application will be open. Alright, so when the application is open, there are links on all the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, the whole of them. So the links are there. You can go straight to the website and apply. Alright, so the application process is not too tough. Right, the first thing we're talking about Nht housing schemes. So to be qualified in the first place to apply for one of these housing schemes, you have to be a Jamaican resident. You have to be between the ages of 18. You have to be a Jamaican resident. Me so find out, but I think so. I'm not sure. I'm gonna research that one day and come back. But you have to be between 18 and 70. You have to be paying Nht contributions for at least a year. They say 52 weeks, but roughly a year, right? You have to be a non-home owner. This is the age and the older we can't bother. So you have to be a non-home owner, right? So that's one of the conditions. Also, your spouse has to be a non-home owner as well, and then you must not have an existing Nht loan, right? So if you already have a property through Nht which you are already paying, then you cannot have two at once. So those are some of the little conditions, right? The application, once the application open, you don't need a lot of information because I've applied more than once to more than one housing scheme, and the last one I did in the bathroom at work, and it took me like 5 minutes. So all you need to know, your TRN number, your NIS number, your your employment information, like where you work, from when to when, and your income information, and those are the things. Once you have your TRN number, your NIS number, your employment history, income information, your local address, and then them other local something there. It's something that you can fill out in 5 minutes. It is not hard, right? And I did it from my phone. So you don't have to do it from a laptop. You can do it from a tablet, from your phone. The application process is pretty easy. So when you do the application process now, they give you a reference number, and they also tell you when you can expect to hear the results, right? I've heard, and it was noted once, that they would contact you directly if you have gotten through, but that is not really the case. So like to tell you status if you got through or not, no. So what they do, they publicize the results. So on their website, on the internet, in the papers, right, they do a release of the name. So basically, you just check the list. If your name depend on the list, you get through. If your name depend on the list, so you don't get through. They don't call you until they say you were not selected and all of that. They don't do that. Alright, so that's like the first step. You do the application process, your name post. Alright, after your name is posted now, and they will officially contact you to say that you have been selected for whichever housing scheme you had applied. However, if your name was posted and you did not, you see, like a few days have passed and you have not heard from the Nht, please, the onus is on you to contact them to say my name was posted, however, I have not been contacted by the NHT. What is happening? Okay, because this is also your responsibility, because it's your business, Then the business, if when you say NHT rich, NHT real rich. So and then they're humans too. So sometimes they can even get lost in the system, People would not want people to call in. If they don't call them, so them can squeeze in them friend. One whole heap of something they would want to get into. But if you see a few days pass, like a week or two, and your name posted about friends, call them. Alright? So, alright. Once you get your call, or you call them, they will inform you that you have to collect a package, right? So your package basically welcomes you to the housing scheme that you have applied and say congratulations, you have been successfully chosen as a pool of whatever for XYZ housing scheme, blah blah blah. Alright, so your letter outlines all the documents that you would need leading up to your interview. So your welcome letter, let me call it the welcome letter, outlines also the person that you're going to be interviewed by, as well as your interview date. So you have a list of documents that must be completed before the interview. So you have those documents to take with you. Alright, so some of the documents are like your job letter, right? So where you are working now, you are going to need a job letter from that company. You are also going to need your Nht Contribution Letter. Alright? Your Nht Contribution Letter should be a letter, because persons think that, alright, other people save up them pay slip like me do them something there, right? And especially they ask to for a contribution letter from your past workplace. So some people don't really want in and out with the place them used to work with, so them things say, alright, if I have all of my pay slips that state my NCB contribution, because them are gonna have this year-end thing on your December pay slip, it states how much Nht contributions you have saved year to date. So if you have all your December pay slip, then all of those would add up to your total over the years when you add them collectively, right? So some people think that I'm a pay slip, then my Nht contribution, then so if I present those, that should suffice. It will not suffice, because what is stated in that letter is your contributions that you would have had your pay slips to prove. However, there's also a section for the Nht contribution for your employer, and you would not have had access to that information. That has to be provided by them. So you have to get a letter. So the pay with the Nht contribution, that will not suffice. Alright? So let me reach out now. So I can chat to say, Lord Jesus. Alright, information I'm going to steal. Yes, the welcome letter. So you're going to need your job letter from a previous employer. You're going to need a contribution letter from them as well as in the same letters from a previous employment. Alright, you are going to need a photograph. Your photograph, it doesn't have to be signed. You're going to need proof of age, which is your birth certificate. You're also going to need 2 IDs. They say one should preferably be a passport. And I think why I don't want one to be up, it doesn't have to be, because everybody have passport, but then put on the passport number on the system. And say what we don't know, because we think say Jamaica kind of back at time, but they are not. Just because the privilege, the technological privilege is not being exercised. So I feel like so your passport number then can check along and them something there. But anyways, two government issued ID, preferably a passport and something, but it can be any two, but it's 2 you need. So, say if you have one ID you have to go look about one next one. Alright, then there are some other documents like the credit consent, because they're going to do credit checks on you. You're going to need banking statements, your bank statements of your savings, and if you have loans, any statements of that as well, credit card. They're also going to need your rent receipts, right? And your proof of major expenses. So if you have like utility bills that you pay, anything that you pay, they need proof for that. If you're not a rent payer, then for the non-rent paying people, because me the rent paying, so I know about that. But I think what am I for the non? That is another to be continued. I have the information, and I have the information, and yet till this day. Hold on, let me go for the information. Oh, okay, yeah. Because I'm so for information, but you don't want to read off the information. So it's me talk about it. But if you're living somewhere that you're not paying rent, you're good. The only thing that you need is the bills. So say for instance, I live at my grandmother's house. I'm not paying rent. I don't pay bills. They're still going to need 2 of each of the utility bills for the last 2 months. Then I'm going to need a light bill and a water bill, or 2 bills for the last 2 months. For the property that you live, you're required to pay a closing cost too, but the closing cost comes in after. So basically those are the other documents. The loan application form, then there are some other little things. When you collect your package, there's nothing to worry about because you'll be presented with all the documents. There's a representative who will guide you through the forms, and they always see. And what because I work in banking too, so whatever you don't understand, you just leave it out, right? And that's it. So you work on getting all your documents together until the interview. All right, so the interview. The word interview scares a lot of people because them think the art is this major formal thing where you dress up in a jacket and tie and you're stuck in on heels, and it's not as serious as it sounds, alright? The interview is not something that you're going to be asked a million questions and drill, and you don't need to feel intimidated. So may I tell you, I've gone through the interview process already too, so may I talk from experience. I'm not going to worry about interview 1, 2. Just like when I sit down and talk to your brethren, it's just that it's a little more formal. But you just answer what you're asked, and the interview really is handing over the documents. So all of those documents that are required when you got your package, you work on them, you bring them in on your interview date. Right? That's basically what you're doing. And if your interviewer has any questions, he'll ask you whatever questions he or she will ask you. If there's anything that needs clarity, if you have any documents that are outstanding, they're going to ask you, how soon can you get this document, right? Because let me tell you something, is when you get your letter and you, while you're interviewing, you have everything, your thing go through fast. When time no, it's not in there. Because if you go to interview and you have any documents outstanding, your file cannot go to the next step. Your file is going to sit there on the person's desk because they cannot proceed with the application until the application is completed. Alright? So try to have nothing, get everything what you need to get nothing go through fast. But you know, sometimes, especially when you're waiting on letters like the Nht Contribution Letters from your past employers, it might take a little time. That's why I say them give you a good look of time to start all the thing then. So as you get on the letter, when you start work on it for work. So by the time when the interview date come up, you're gonna have everything you're gonna need. Alright? So, I say, hey, I can't chat to them. Right now, I don't even know which part I process me the right interview. So, interview now, you give them the documents that are listed on your welcome letter. If you have anything that you need to ask them, this is the grand opportunity. Alright? What I would recommend also, the person who interviews you, to get their extension and their email address, right? Because you know, sometimes from time to time things are going to pop up in your head because you're not going to remember to ask everything in the interview. So once you have a contact person, you can call that person, email that person, and ask them what you need to ask them, because I can tell you NHT is one of the places that has the best customer service in Jamaica. I'm not telling you no lie. When it comes to customer service in Jamaica, they say gone to the dogs. But NHT is one of those organizations where actually have good customer service. You don't have to worry about reaching out to somebody, right? Because they're always willing to assist. You make a look down them road, me have to big them up, because them are going with that thing, right? So you can always contact them. And if you're on social media too, they're, we call it something like when you message them, DM, whatever, when you message them on social media, they respond quickly. So if it is a case where you even have no email address or an extension for the personal interview, you can reach out to the NHT on social media and they respond. Alright? So after you go through your interview, it is not a big deal. It is nothing to be frightened about. Alright, just ensure say you do what you need to do. They ask you the relevant questions, they look at your pay slip, right? They're going to do the income and expenditure something. That part of the interview is what they're going to use now, based on your pay slip and your expenses and their calculation, that will determine if you are able to afford the housing solution that you had applied for. Because you know you generally have a first choice and a second choice. So sometimes if you are leaning towards they recommend you for whichever and the one that they think you are likely better able to afford. After your interview is done, provided that you don't have any outstanding documents, or say for instance you had outstanding documents, once your file is ready for approval, them have everything in there, once your thing gone through, they're going to call you to pay your closing cost, right? Your closing cost. I don't want to say the figure what it is now because I don't know if it's going to change, but they call to pay the closing cost. It's a little under $4,000, $3,500, not a lot. So once them call to pay your closing cost, here's the closing cost. That means your thing is sealed, it is gone through. Yeah. But they tell you at the end of your interview when you should expect to hear from them, right? So you can do your interview this month and you hear from them the next month to say that, hey, you can come and look at your new house based on the availability of the housing solutions. Because what happened, they are handed over in batches. So the contractor, they made the house when they are ready, like so them hand them over 2020. So each batch will have 20 in there. So the first 20 hours, them hand them over to NHT. Then NHT will contact you now to say you're going to have a viewing. So whichever batch you're in, when NHT calls you to do your viewing, you go, you look at your house, you look at your lot, where it is, because you know, sometimes it might be at a position that is not ideal to you, would have preferred somewhere else. They give you two options. Then show you one house and you look on it. Say, alright, oh, this is the front of the scheme, this is not bad. But for whatever reason, you look around the back, you say, here, so look like, say, if rainfall too rough, you're going to be affected by water. So you say, no, I don't like this spot here. So them give you a second option. You only have two options, right? Them can go on next lot and you look at it and you say, alright, the lot you're far and it depends on one hill, but at least you know, say, it depends on one hill, so water now go trouble you, right? At the end of the day, you'd have to decide either the one down there, so where the front of the scheme, or the one up there, so whichever two options they give, you have to choose between either of them. However, if you decide, say, like none of them, then now go up and down with your own scheme until you find a perfect house. No, it's just two options. If you decide that no, you're not interested in any of the two options that they give to you, then you do look at something to say that you will not be accepting a house from the NHT, and they close off your file. Close off your file. If you get about everything and move on with your life, wait until them have one next scheme open, or buy a piece of land and bill, or buy one house from out for the open market. So right, that's how it there. So me just take a breath. Me literally just take a breath. Alright, so I'm just share some of the information that I have with you. I feel like the video long, but I'm not edit out nothing. But if you have any questions, you know, you can always reach out to me. I'll respond, email address. So I mean, I think on home ownership is a make the age and all them is a man. Home ownership is something that everybody should really work towards. There's nothing like when you're turning your own key in your own door. Alright, so until next video, which might not be something about NHT, because you know, say broke at every place, so good day, go back a road, shovel outside, but that is to come. Alright, so until next video, everybody keep safe, big up on yourself, and I'm out.